No one had a good time. Why Emilia Clarke was relieved her $2 franchise movie bombed, when it could have given her a Daenerys rival. About halfway through Game of Thrones' run, Emilia Clarke starred in a popular franchise that could have led to her being a major movie star. However, her experience making the movie was so awful that she was relieved when it bombed at the box office. Years before this, Clarke had a much better experience when she joined the aforementioned Game of Thrones franchise. Back when HBO's hit fantasy series premiered in 2011, it wasn't a franchise at all. In fact, Clarke was one of the actors that helped turn Game of Thrones into one of the biggest shows in the world. Clarke played Daenerys Targaryen in all 8 seasons of Game of Thrones. Throughout the show's run, her Game of Thrones character earned nicknames such as Breaker of Chains and Mother of Dragons, and became an iconic TV show character. The success of Game of Thrones led Clarke to appear in other major franchises, such as Star Wars and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. She has also appeared in romance films, such as Me, Before You and Last Christmas. In 2015, Clarke also starred Terminator Genisys, and it seems like shooting this film was the worst experience of her professional career. Emilia Clarke could have had another major franchise alongside and after Game of Thrones. 4 years into Game of Thrones' run, Clarke switched genres and starred in Terminator Genisys. Terminator Genisys was the 5th movie in the long-running science fiction series and was meant to reboot the franchise. 6 years after Terminator Salvation was not received well by critics and audiences, Terminator Genisys was meant to usher in a new era for the franchise. Therefore, joining the cast of Terminator Genisys seemed like an exciting step for Clarke's career and gave her a chance to star in a franchise outside of Game of Thrones. Initially, there were high hopes for Terminator Genisys, as it was bringing back Arnold Schwarzenegger as a different version of the T-100. Terminator Genisys was set in a new timeline and had different actors portraying iconic characters such as Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese. In the film, Clarke played Sarah Connor, the main character of the first 2 Terminator movies. Since it was set in a new timeline, Terminator Genisys attempted to honor the franchise's past while also setting up future films. Unfortunately, Terminator Genisys was not well received and has a score of 26% on Rotten Tomatoes via Rotten Tomatoes. Why Terminator Genisys failed and why Emilia Clarke was relieved. Reviews for Terminator Genisys point out that the plot of the film, which was focused on time travel and alternate realities, is far too confusing. Additionally, the film did not spend enough time developing its characters. Even though characters like Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese appeared in previous Terminator movies, they are played by new actors in Terminator Genisys and basically seem like new characters. However, Terminator Genisys hardly spends any time making sure audiences care about these characters or any other characters in the movie. In addition to the many problems with Terminator Genisys' story, Clarke reportedly did not enjoy her time filming the movie. In a 2018 interview with Vanity Fair, Clarke admitted that no one had a good time on the set of Terminator Genisys. Reportedly, the crew of the critically panned Fantastic Four reboot, which was also filming at the same time, actually had jackets that read, "At least we're not on Terminator." This makes it clear that filming Terminator Genisys was a terrible time for all involved, which is why Clarke was relieved when the movie bombed at the box office. Emilia Clarke has had attempts at other major franchises. Even though Clarke did not have a good experience filming Terminator Genisys, it did not stop her from joining other major franchises. Just 3 years after Terminator Genisys, Clarke starred in perhaps the most popular science fiction franchise of all time. In 2018, Clarke starred as Kira in Solo, a Star Wars story. Solo was the second Star Wars spin-off film that was made after Disney purchased Lucasfilm in 2012 and was centered on a young Han Solo. Clarke's experiences with Terminator, Star Wars, and the MCU prove that she doesn't have the best luck when it comes to franchises. Even though Han Solo is one of the best Star Wars characters, the film was not loved by a lot of fans, and Clarke has not appeared in the franchise again. After betraying Han at the end of Solo, a Star Wars story, the film teased that Qi'ra would work with Darth Maul, which would have been an interesting direction for Clarke's character. The film set up many possibilities for a potential sequel. However, 7 years after its release, it seems unlikely that a sequel to Solo will ever be made. Even though Solo 2 has not been made, Clarke joined another major Disney franchise in 2023. Clarke played Gaia in Secret Invasion, an MCU Disney Plus show. Secret Invasion follows Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury, who fights against a faction of Skrulls that are trying to take over Earth. By the end of Secret Invasion, Gaia becomes arguably the most powerful character in the MCU. However, the show was not received well by fans, and Clarke's character has not appeared in any other MCU projects. What is Emilia Clarke doing next? Clarke's experiences with Terminator, Star Wars, and the MCU prove that she doesn't have the best luck when it comes to franchises. While it's unlikely that she will ever reprise her Star Wars role, it's possible that she will return as Gaia. Given Gaia's power level, it would actually make sense for her to appear in upcoming MCU movies like Avengers, Doomsday, and Avengers: Secret Wars. However, since fans didn't react well to her character, this may be unlikely. Time will tell whether Clarke will reprise her MCU role. In the meantime, the actor has several other projects lined up. Clarke is set to star in Criminal, an upcoming Prime Video series that is based on a Marvel Image comic book of the same name and follows multiple crime families. Clarke currently does not have many film roles lined up, but she does voice a character in the upcoming 2025 animated movie Twits. Therefore, even though Emilia Clarke hasn't always had the best luck with some of her roles, it is clear that she is still an actor fans should be on the lookout for in future movies and shows.